Well, g'day, and welcome back again to Zhaoqing. And today you find us, we are up on the ancient wall. We're just going for a walk. And we're going to talk a little bit about a viewer question I got, which was a really good question. So, we'll read out what was written and then we'll get into it. Right, so let's just pause while I read this. So this is from Peter Joel. I'm always interested, okay, so what video, I can't actually see from here what video this was on. It's probably on the Link Fair video that we did over in Sing Sing a couple of weeks back. I'm always interested in factories and what life is like for an ordinary factory worker, seeing as that is all I was for most of my own life here in the UK. Retired now. With the controlled nature of factory work and the jobs, I really doubt if there is any difference with how hard they work in comparison. The only difference is likely to be with the pay and the conditions. The things like how long their working days are and how many holidays they have, and what kind of lifestyle they can afford outside of work and on their income. So, Peter, very good question. So, we are going to follow this up a little bit more in the future. I'm going to try and talk to some factory workers. I do know a few people who work in factories around here and over in Sing Sing. So I'm going to try and tee up to have a chat with a few people and bring you some more information, because this is very broad what I'm about to go through. So we got an AI, we had a look at the question, on AI, asked some questions there. So we'll go through that, and then we're going to go through, so as I said, I know a few people who work in factories. I'll give you my perspective just on talking to them, but not actually talking to them necessarily about this specific subject, but my impressions of, you know, how happy or otherwise they appear to be and all that sort of thing. So starting off with what we sort of have on AI. So the first question I asked was, what legal rights and protections do factory workers have in China? And the answer is as follows. In China, factory workers' legal rights and protections are mainly regulated by the labor law of the People's Republic of China, the labor contract law, and other relevant laws and regulations. The specific contents are as follows. Employment and contract rights. Workers enjoy the right to equal employment free from discrimination based on ethnicity, race, gender, or religious belief. Employers must sign written labour contracts with workers to clarify terms such as contract period, job content, and labour remuneration. Workers who have worked continuously for the same employer for more than 10 years are entitled to apply for an open-ended labour contract, which actually sounds pretty good. So you don't have to keep re-signing for your job every year. That'd be nice. Labour remuneration rights. They have the right to obtain labour remuneration that is not lower than the local minimum wage standard. For overtime work, they shall get extra pay, 150% of the regular wage for overtime on work days, 200% for work on rest days without make-up leave, and 300% for work on statutory holidays. So yeah, if you're working overtime, you get paid extra, which I think is only fair. 150%. I think that's about the same as what we had in Australia. In Australia, from memory, and I may be wrong here, the laws may have changed, I may be misremembering, but from memory, if you worked up to 2 hours overtime, you basically get plus 50%, so you're 150% pay. If you work over 2 hours, the subsequent time is at double time, so 200%. So yeah, very similar to what we have in Australia. I don't know what rights workers have in other countries, other places around the place, but it all seems pretty good. Extra pay if you're working extra time. Right, work, rest and vacation rights. The legal working hour system stipulates no more than 8 hours a day and 44 hours a week on average. Employers must ensure workers have at least one rest day per week. Workers are entitled to statutory holidays such as Spring Festival and National Day, and those who have worked continuously for more than 1 year can enjoy paid annual leave. So 44 hours a week on average. It does lead me to question how, if you're sort of allowed to work more some weeks and then other weeks you work less, is that average worked out over a month, over a year? I'm not sure. Yeah, the rest of that's pretty straightforward. I would be curious about that on average thing. Occupational safety and health protections. Oh, I've lost my place. Hold on one second. Where were we? Occupational safety and health protections. Employers must provide a safe working environment and necessary labour protection supplies and conduct regular health checks for workers engaged in hazardous operations. Workers have the right to refuse illegal commands and risky operations and can stop work or evacuate when facing imminent personal safety risks. Which, yeah, again, seems totally fair enough to me. Right, next we have social insurance rights. Employers are obligated to pay 5 social insurances: endowment insurance, medical insurance, work-related injury insurance, unemployment insurance, and maternity insurance for workers. In case of work-related injuries or occupational diseases, workers can apply for work-related injury identification and obtain corresponding medical treatment expenses and disability subsidies as stipulated. So, yeah, there's plenty of sort of protections there. Right, rights related to labour contract termination. If the employer terminates the labour contract without just cause, workers are entitled to economic compensation. Employers are prohibited from dismissing workers who are in medical treatment for illnesses or injuries, female workers during pregnancy, childbirth or lactation, and those who have lost or partially lost labour capacity due to work-related injuries. All seems fair enough to me. That sounds very fair. Right, and the last one in this particular question, rights to dispute resolution. When their legitimate rights are infringed, workers can apply for labour dispute arbitration first. If they are dissatisfied with the arbitration result, they can file a lawsuit with the People's Court. Trade unions will provide I looked up a minute and I've lost my place. Trade unions will provide support and assistance for workers in applying for arbitration and litigation. So we have a, looks like middle school down here behind us. Looks like PE classes going on. We've got badminton being played, basketball being played, running happening there, football being played down there, few different sports going on. So yeah, so that's a very broad overview of the sort of labour laws here. I then went on to ask, what are the minimum wage standards for factory workers in China? So, in China, the minimum wage standards are divided into monthly minimum wage for full-time factory workers and hourly minimum wage for part-time workers. and they vary by region with multi-level settings. As of the 1st of October 2025, the key standards are as follows. First tier cities. So Shanghai leads with a monthly minimum wage of 2,740 RMB and an hourly rate of 25. Beijing has a monthly standard of 2,540 RMB and an hourly rate of 27.7. Also, they have a lower monthly rate but a higher hourly rate. Shenzhen, Guangdong sets its monthly minimum wage at 2,520 RMB, while Guangdong's first tier monthly standard covering Guangzhou is 2,500 RMB with an hourly rate of 23.7. Tianjin implements a monthly standard of 2,510 RMB and an hourly rate of 26.6. Eastern and Central provinces. So provinces like Jiangsu and Zhejiang have a first tier monthly minimum wage of 2,490 RMB and an hourly rate of 24. Shandong's first tier monthly standard is 2,400 RMB. Hunan and Hubei adopt 3-level monthly standards, with the highest at 2,200 RMB and the lowest at 1,800 RMB. Their corresponding hourly rates range from 18 to 22 RMB. Western provinces and regions. So Sichuan and Chongqing have the same first tier monthly minimum wage of 23.30 and an hourly rate of 23, with a second tier monthly standard of 2,200 RMB. Guangxi's 3-level monthly standards are 2,200 RMB, 2,040 RMB and 1,870 RMB, paired with hourly rates from 19 to 22.4. It should be noted that factory workers' overtime pay, special post allowances such as high temperature subsidies and welfare benefits are not included in the minimum wage. Besides, Guangdong Jiaqing, where you are located, implements the 3rd tier monthly minimum wage standard of Guangdong province, which is 1,850 RMB, and the hourly minimum wage standard is 18.3. So that's wages broadly covered. So we then asked, how many weeks paid annual leave is a worker entitled to? In China, the number of paid annual leave for workers is determined by their cumulative working years, and the specific duration converted into weeks is based on the provisions of the regulations on paid annual leave for employees. The details as follows. So workers with a cumulative working period of more than 1 year but less than 10 years are entitled to 5 days of paid annual leave, which is about 0.7 of a week. Workers with a cumulative working period of more than 10 years but less than 20 years can enjoy 10 days of paid annual leave, approximately 1.4 weeks. Workers with a cumulative working period of more than 20 years are entitled to 15 days of paid annual leave, roughly 2.1 weeks. It should be noted that national statutory holidays and rest days are not included in the paid annual leave period. I actually think that's really, really low. That's not a lot of days off. Back in Australia, we have 4 weeks paid annual leave. Once you've worked for a company for a year, you're entitled to 4 weeks. Well, have been in every, I don't know that, I presume that's the law. Every job I've ever had, that's been the case. I'm pretty sure that's a legal requirement. It is 4 weeks annual leave per year. But there are other things that give Chinese workers more days off, which we'll maybe look at when we do another dive into this subject, because we will do another dive into this subject. Okay, and my next question. Now this one was actually really interesting because I've known people who have gone through this. And what about if a couple has a baby? How much maternity and paternity leave is a worker entitled to in China? So in China, the duration of maternity leave and paternity leave is based on national uniform standards and supplemented by local regulations with specific provisions as follows. So maternity leave. The national basic standard is 98 days, including 15 days of prenatal leave. For difficult labour, an additional 15 days of leave will be added. For multiple births, an additional 15 days of leave will be added for each extra baby. So if you have twins or triplets or more, you get more leave, which seems fair enough to me. All provinces and cities have extended the maternity leave on this basis, and most places have extended it to no less than 158 days. For example, Beijing and Shanghai will have 158 days of maternity leave. Zhejiang has 8 days for the first child and 188 days for the second and third children. Gansu and Jilin have directly stipulated 180 days of maternity leave. In addition, Chengdu allows female employees who practice exclusive breastfeeding to take an extra 1 month of maternity leave. So for maternity leave, they do bloody well. You know, you're looking at what, close to 6 months, a lot of places, which I think is really good. You know, that's one thing you'll know if you ever visit China. The whole family thing is very important to Chinese culture. So, and you know, your children, your babies, are the most important. So they take really good care of people for that. So that's the mothers. The fathers, paternity leave. It is regulated by local governments with the duration ranging from 7 days to 30 days. For example, Shanghai has 10 days, Beijing, Guangdong and Jiangsu have 15 days, Hunan and Sichuan have 20 days, Inner Mongolia and Guangxi have 25 days, and Jiangxi, Yunnan and Gansu have 30 days. During paternity leave, employees are generally paid as usual and their welfare benefits remain unchanged. I'm curious, if they say, for example, so Guangdong's 15 days, if you're working a Monday to Friday job, does that 15 days not include weekends? So is that just Monday to Friday, you'd get 3 weeks of leave? Or is the 15 days including weekends, so it's only really 2 weeks? Be curious, I should have asked that question. Maybe we'll get back to that. Maybe we'll ask it when we finish. We've got one more section here. So last question I asked was, and how many days of paid public holiday or national holiday leave is there per year? For example, I know Spring Festival lasts a lot longer than people are actually given time off for. So, since 2025, China has adjusted its national statutory holiday system with 13 paid national holidays per year for all citizens and longer consecutive vacations formed through leave adjustments, which explains why festivals like the Spring Festival seem to have a longer vacation. Specific details are as follows. So, statutory holiday breakdown. There are 7 types of national statutory holidays. Among them, the Spring Festival has 4 days. Lunar New Year's Eve to the 3rd day of the first lunar month. The National Day has 3 days, October 1st till 3rd. Labor Day has 2 days, March 1st and 2nd. And New Year's Day, Qingming Festival, Dragon Boat Festival and Mid-Autumn Festival each have 1 day. Vacation arrangement with leave adjustments in 2025. The longer holidays people actually enjoy are the result of combining statutory holidays with weekends and adjusted working days. For example, the Spring Festival has an 8-day vacation. The Labor Day has 5 days. National Day and Mid-Autumn Festivals are combined into an 8-day vacation. Qingming Festival and Dragon Boat Festival each have three-day consecutive vacation, while New Year's Day has a 1-day vacation without leave adjustment. In addition, there are half-day or 1-day holidays for specific groups, such as a half a day off for women on Women's Day, 1 day off for children under 14 on Children's Day. That's a day off from school. That's not because it's children working in factories. And factory workers can get 300% of their daily wage if they work on statutory holidays. So let's just go back to that question on the paternity leave. If, talking about the paternity leave, if a worker in Guangdong has 15 days of paternity leave, if they work a Monday to Friday job, does the 15 days mean 3 weeks? The days do not include Saturday and Sunday, or is it 15 days straight through? Right, let's see what answer we get. Okay. First of 15 consecutive. Okay. Okay, so weekends or statutory holidays encountered during the leave period will not be excluded, or the leave period will not be extended accordingly. So yeah, the 15 days goes straight through. So that answers that question. So let's talk about the other part of the question that Peter asked there, which was workers, how are they happy, all that sort of thing, and their time outside of work. So the factory workers I've met, now most people I've actually met who are factory workers, I've met, they are working for family businesses, or they own their own little, small time factory. I haven't met many people who actually work for a big company like the one that we saw in Sing Sing a couple of weeks ago, the Link Fair factory. So I can't talk about them. The ones I've met either work for themselves or work for small family sort of sized businesses. Most of them seem to be doing very well. The thing with China is most people own their own home. So you have a family home, which is always available to you. The workers I've met all seem to be doing very well. When they're on, they all go away somewhere during their vacations. Whether it's going back to their hometown, there are people in Jiaoqing that I know who have small factories, who come from other places, come here to set up factories. I met, if you go way, way back in the channel, I did a video on a plastics factory a couple of years ago. And I know the lady who set up that factory in Sing Sing, she had moved there from, I think she'd come from Shenzhen. Her factory was in Shenzhen, but rents in Shenzhen, very, very high. So there's a lot of factories moving from places like Shenzhen and Guangzhou into smaller places like here in Jiaoqing, like Yunfu, places where they can get more land for less money and expand their businesses and have more opportunities to expand and without breaking the bank, so to speak. Yeah, and everybody I've met seems to be pretty happy. The workers I've met, I don't, when I go to Sing Sing, I probably meet more of that type of person in Sing Sing than I do here in Jiaoqing. And I can't say I'm close friends with any of the factory workers. It's just people that I meet here and there as we go about the place. I'll go around with my friends and you get these people come up and say hello. Everybody I see is pretty well dressed, and not suit and tie sort of thing, but everyone's got good clothes on, good shoes. Everybody seems very happy. Everybody can afford to go out and eat. In terms of like the rate of pay, which if you look at it from an outsider, it sounds like they get paid very, very low. What was some of them? So say 2,500 a month was one of the numbers I remember. Now that's less than $500 in Australia. Which, sounds terrible. $500 wouldn't last you a week in Australia. But cost of living here is far, far less. As I said, most people, if they don't own their own home, they have a family home that they live in. Family is a very, very different structure to what it is in the West. Families look after each other. When you have children, the parents go off to work, the grandparents take care of the children. Look at places like Sing Sing. Young people will finish school, leave Sing Sing to go to college or university, and then go and work in Shenzhen or Guangzhou or Shanghai or wherever they go. They'll go and work in the bigger cities where they can make more money. Their children stay back in their hometown. When they have children, they'll come back home to have children, and then their children stay with the grandparents, and the parents go off back to wherever they're working. It's one of the things that we have with my friends over in Hezhou. We'll tell you about them in a minute. But it's a very different structure than most places in the West. I can't say all places. I don't know all places. But I think that's the case. And so the cost of living, that's where I was getting to. The cost of living is very, very different. So, $500 a week, a month Australian, for an Australian sounds very low. $500 for a month. But here, that's enough. They don't need any more. Going out to eat here is very, very cheap. I can go and have a good meal, noodles, vegetables, and pork or chicken generally, because I don't eat much else. And you can get that for 10 to 13 RMB. And you could go and do that every night of the week and eat perfect. It's good food, it's good healthy food, there's nothing wrong with it. And you could go and do that you don't have to cook. I've got friends here who don't cook, don't have kitchens in their houses. They go out to eat every night, just because it is that cheap to do here. So, I used to get asked the question when I still occasionally, but it doesn't happen so much anymore. I used to often get asked the question, why did you come to work in China? You can earn much more money in Australia. Which, yes, you can earn much more money in Australia, but it also costs a hell of a lot more to live in Australia. As with many places in the West, cost of living is forever going up. It's not getting any better for the average people. So, yeah, I mentioned when I first came here, I was earning less here in a month than I would earn in a week in Australia. And quite substantially less. And yet I lived a better life here, which, you know, fair enough. I didn't have to pay rent here. Rent was not an issue, so, you know, my apartment's provided by my school, so rent, you know, that's a big cost, but I still have to pay electricity, water, I have to pay for my gas, and then, you know, food and stuff. So, you know, I got out of rent, but everything else I still pay for, phone bill. And we might go into what sort of monthly costs are for living in China, for all that sort of household stuff and whatnot. We'll get into that a little bit in another video. I did see somebody else did that a few weeks back. I can't remember who it was. One of the YouTubers. So we might have a look at my situation and go through how much I pay for stuff. Yeah, that'd be interesting. But yeah, for workers here, the cost of living is very, very cheap. We were going to talk about my friends over in Hezhou, which the last video we did, I did mention I was going to Hezhou. I was going to be in Hezhou today, but Elva's actually she's had another job come up, so she's away this weekend. So we're actually going to go over there on Monday, go and spend a couple of days in Hezhou with her family, because her mum's not been well, so we're going to go and visit her. And then she's going to come over to Guangzhou with me because I have to go and redo my passport, and she's got friends over in Dongguan she wants to go and see. So I haven't been to Dongguan yet, so we're going to spend a couple of days there. We'll do a couple of videos in Dongguan, another new place for you all. But my friend's over there. So, so Elva has got 5 nieces from 2, I don't know whether they're her brothers or her sisters' children. I don't know. I think it's her sisters. I think there's 3 sisters in her family. And between them, they've got 5 nieces and 1 nephew of Elva's. So each family has 3 children. And I'm pretty sure all of the parents live or work in Shenzhen. I'm pretty sure from both of the families. So all 6 of the kids stay with Elva's parents, you know, the kids' grandparents, during school time and all that sort of thing. How often the parents get back home, I'm not sure. We might have to, we'll have a talk to Elva about that and ask a few more questions about their situation. But yeah, so the grandparents do a great deal of the work. These, I don't really know the young lad from the family. He was, last time I was over there, he was only 2 or 3 years old, very, very shy. Wasn't really into talking too much. He, but the girls, you know, spent years hanging out with the girls. They're a great bunch. Did the couple of videos last year, I think it was, down in the islands off the south coast. If you saw them with the twins, 2 of the girls that are Elva's nieces, took them down to the islands down on the south coast on a couple of trips, which was really good. Yeah, I'm trying to think what else I can tell you about this sort of situation. But as I say, I will try and get some more information, and we'll do a follow-up video on this, try and get some more specifics, talk to people about their actual situations, try and get some real-world examples for you. Trying to think what else we can add to that subject. Yeah, I can't think of anything. We're still sort of walking around this old wall. Well, walking back up onto the old wall now. So behind us here is one of the parts that are closed off where they are doing refurbishments. Hopefully that's all done and dusted very, very soon. Across, if we spin this camera around, so straight through here, little museum in here, in the old building back through there, and then they have the park in the middle of the museum there, in the middle of the ancient wall. Lots of these older buildings down through here. It's such a nice spot to walk around. Oh man, banging on something down here. But if we get around the other side of the wall here, so one thing that they've done right the way along, putting in grass and everything alongside the old wall and stuff, it's looks like we have a bit of the walls being propped up here. They must be going to redo some of the brickwork and stuff. And you can actually, well, I don't know how well you can see, but this little bit of the wall here is just leaning over a little bit. So, yeah, hopefully they get it all fixed up. But yeah, they've gone right the way around the wall. They've done a lot of work getting all this grass and stuff in. When I first arrived here, this was just all overgrown. It was, yeah, not very nice. I think probably a year or two after I arrived, they started working on all this, and they've done a fantastic job. Lots of these little seating areas down here, all the way around. Yeah, lots of seats. One thing I've noticed since I came to Zhaoqing, when I first arrived, as you walked around, there was nowhere to sit. There was very, very little public seating anywhere that you went. And I've noticed a huge amount more seating going in lately. It's really good. Back over to the other side. So we have up in front of us here old apartment buildings. These are ready to be torn down. So these, yeah, up in front of us, just beyond this little fence down here. These were all lived in when I first arrived. People have moved on. And yeah, they've all been, well, almost all except one. So most of these are empty, but I can see there's one apartment up here that still has windows and everything in there, washing hanging up. So maybe that's one person who's not happy with their level of compensation and they've decided to stick it out. But yeah, all these old buildings ready to be demolished. Well, there's a puppy dog up there. There's two dogs up there they've got, up in this one in here. Nice looking dogs. So yeah, I like these, this one down here, they got like little Roman pillars on either side of the door there. That looks really cool. But yeah, we've got one apartment up there where there's still someone hanging out, not ready to move out yet, but yeah, I think these will all be gone before very much longer. It may well be that the person living up there is a caretaker, just keeping an eye on the place while everything's being prepared. So we see the apartments behind there, they're all still lived in. So it is only these ones closest to the wall at the present time that are looking at being knocked down by the look of it. Don't know what the plans are for in here. When I first got here, I saw, well, probably a couple of years after I arrived, I did see plans where they basically had plans to get rid of almost everything through here. The tourist street up the far end there was going to stay. Some of the stuff, there was stuff around that's going to stay, but a lot of stuff in here was going to be cleared out, and it was going to be hotels, swimming pool, sporting grounds in here, parks, all that sort of thing, all sort of public spaces and tourist stuff, which would be really, really good. Yeah, make it a real proper Ridgey tourist precinct. Because it is, yeah, there's a lot of potential in this place. You know, Zhaoqing has got so much going for it. It's already very much on the tourist map for local Chinese people, but you know, very, very little in the way of international tourism. Hopefully, people watching my videos and Mr. Tony, hopefully they get a few more international folks coming along. That'd be nice. We're just sort of getting around the corner here. We'll finish the video when we get up around the next section of the wall. That will have given us a whole lap that we've walked around. Up in front of us here, this construction going on here. This is the traditional Chinese medicine hospital, which is getting closer and closer. I'm looking forward to seeing that open. The old hospital was quite old and daggy looking, very sort of, I don't know, maybe 70s looking construction. From what I've seen, it looks like it's going to be a pretty good modern building in there. So yeah, it's all looking good. There's a lot going on here. It's like I said with Sing Sing, you know, I've said with Sing Sing a few times, you know, if you're in the area, go and visit Sing Sing. It is a fabulous place to go and hang out. Really nice people, lots of really cool temples and stuff, a lot of really good history there. Same here with Zhaoqing. If you're in the area, don't just go to Guangzhou and Shenzhen. Come and visit Zhaoqing. Come and visit some of the other smaller places and get out of this sort of just stuck in the big city sort of thing. Not that there's anything wrong with the big cities, but yeah, these smaller places are always a pleasure to get to. But if you're coming here on a holiday, I know it can be hard. You know, you've got limited time. You sort of want to spend it as best you can. So here on our left, we've got more work being done on the old wall, which this has been blocked off for a long time through here. But I have noticed just recently there seems to be actually a fair bit going on. So we've actually got the gate open here today. There might actually be workers in there doing something. So we can see here, we've got a bit of the old wall sort of collapsing and stuff in here. So getting all of this fixed up. It'd be nice, we got this section and the section back behind us, which are closed off. It'll be nice when the whole thing's opened up and people can, you know, walk the whole circuit without having to get off the wall. That'd be really, really good. So we are getting back onto the wall here and just through this gate, and we'll be back to where we started from. So that is, let's get this tracking on. That is our lap of the old wall completed. So yeah, Peter, I hope I've answered your question, given you, well, not fully answered. I got more information to find, but for short notice, it's the best I could do. If you got further questions, you know what to do down there. So if you've enjoyed this little walk and talk, hit us up, like, share, subscribe. Questions, comments, as we said, down there in the comment section. Facebook, A Scot in China. Come and join the group, sharing all sorts of stuff there. And finally, What was the other one? Oh yes, as always, if there's anything you'd like to know about life here in China, in Guangdong, especially here in Jiaqing, down there in the comment section, hit us up. If you come up with a good question, as Peter did, I'll go away, do the research and try and come back with a video with some answers for you. But for now, thanks for watching everybody. Stay safe and we'll see you all in the next one. Cheers.